Seems like a question that I get all the time is, hey, how big of a deal is it to lay sod on my lawn? It seems like I just got to buy the grass and throw it out there and water it, right? Is that what it takes? Actually, there's a little more to it than that. You can do that. It's not what we do, and it's not what we recommend that you do. We're going to go through our steps today, show you our steps, thought processes, strategies, techniques, things like that. And that way you can decide what you're going to do on your property, whether you're going to hire a professional, whether you're going to do it yourself. We want you to make a good, informed decision. One of the first things that you want to think about when you're going to do sod is you want to think about your soils. We recommend that you get a soil sample so that you know exactly what the pH is on your soil, what's there and what's not there, so that you can correct that before you go through all the work and time and the expense of laying that sod and then not have it grow because the soil's not right, the pH is off, things like that. You can't tell from looking at it, you need to have it tested. A lot of times we have calls from clients who's had their yard sodded 2 or 3 times by other contractors, and they keep saying it just keeps failing. I guess they're not doing it right, or they're not getting good grass. We go out, we realize it's a soil problem, it's not the grass problem, and it probably wasn't the other contractor's fault so much. Is grass is just not going to grow there well until you get that soil pH correct. Second thing you want to think about is light exposure. Do you get enough sunlight on the ground to grow turf grass? This site is great. We get sun all day long. We're going with Bermuda grass here, and this grass is going to grow great in this area. This is a remodel on a little small commercial building here, getting a lawn put in, some beds. There's full sun in this area. If your area is in deep shade, you may not be able to grow great turf grass there. You may want to do some other options. You may want to put some beds, some mulched areas, some low growing ground covers, things that tolerate shade well. There are a few shade tolerant turf grasses, but they still require some light to do well. Third thing you want to think about is grading and handling the water, all the surface water, all the runoff water that's going to be in that turf grass area. You want to make sure you've got the grade right before you lay the sod, because once you lay the sod, fixing the grade after that is substantially harder. Our fourth step is when we apply the soil amendments and the nutrients to make sure that we have a great stand of grass, that your grass is healthy, strong, and successful, is able to compete with weeds and get well established after installation. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to correct the pH. This particular soil, we need to add some lime. So we've added the lime here. Second step for us is a product called azomite. That's a volcanic mineral. It comes from Utah. It has all of the trace mineral requirements that any type of plant requires. We use it in all our plantings, and especially turf grass. We believe building the soil is a great way to build a great stand of grass. The next amendment we really like to use is an iron product. Iron gives turf a deep green color, makes it strong, and makes it healthy. And lastly, to make sure your turf has the energy and the nutrients and the strength it needs to be well established, gets those roots down, get all grown in well. Over the years, we've developed a seed and sod starter fertilizer that we have specially blended for our use. Once all the amendments are down, we'll give the area a nice hand rake, because that's the final time you have to make that lawn smooth. Remember, you've got one time to make that lawn smooth. It's before you lay that turf grass. You don't want to try to smooth up a lawn after you lay the sod. It's much easier to get your dirt smooth first and then lay your sod, and then you've got a smooth lawn to work with. Today's a hot day out here. You can probably tell it's close to 100 degrees out here today. So when you're laying sod in that type of application, or really any application, you want to get water on that fresh sod as soon as possible. We don't want to wait till you're all the way down the yard, and it may take an all day long process, because that means you've got sod that was laid this morning that has not had a drink yet. So as soon as we get a section of turf laid that's big enough to get a sprinkler on, we want to get water on that, get that thing saturated, and get it basically melted into the soil below that. We continue that process across the property, laying the turf, cutting in the edges, and watering it in. We clean up as we go. That way you're not walking back and forth across saturated sod, pressing down holes in it, popping up edges when you're worried about cutting in the edges and cleaning up. Clean up as you go, so when you're done, you're done. Now the last thing we've got to do to ensure that the sod is a success, because everything done up until this point can all be for naught if there's not a proper watering maintenance done, and that moisture level in that sod is not maintained while the sod grows in and gets established. Typically in the summertime, sod is going to require at a minimum of 1 thorough watering a day. By thorough watering, I mean enough water to totally saturate the sod and get into the subsoil below the sod so that we have moisture below the sod. And getting that moisture down below the sod and that subsoil is what causes those new roots to want to reach down there and get it, get well established, and knit it into the ground. At that point, it's usually about 10 days to 2 weeks. If you've done a good job, we've got good warm weather, you start decreasing those watering events. First every other day, that can be about 2 weeks typically. And then you can go to every second day, and you can start to wean that sod off of frequent waterings. But you want to do thorough waterings to get it thoroughly saturated. What you don't want to do is a lot of frequent light waterings where you just mist the grass a little bit for a few minutes and you don't thoroughly wet it down in the subsoil. Light frequent watering does not get moisture into the subsoil. Therefore, the sod's not going to send roots down into that subsoil. It's not going to get established. And you're not going to be able to begin weaning those watering events off. You're just going to be stuck in a cycle trying to keep that stuff alive with roots right up on top of the ground. So water deep and wean it off as you see that it's rooting in. So I hope we were able to give you a good overview today of the steps that we take, what we recommend in case you want to do it yourself, the steps that you need to allow for, plan for, and think through to make sure that your turf grass installation is successful and you get a well-established stand of grass on your property that you can be proud of. So if you're needing a great turf grass installation on your property, call us down at Red River. We look forward to your call and we look forward to working with you.